Welcome to Progressive Mindset Podcast. My name is Natalie Potts, a business coach and mentor, and each week I'll bring you an inspiring personal message to help you unlock creating and living a life full of energy, action, impact and happiness. And today I'm delighted to welcome on Chris. Chris and I have got a really interesting episode where we talk around how he got into coaching in his niche and really finding purpose in your life and knowing that you don't just have to have one passion, and potentially that the way we see our upbringings and the limiting beliefs can hold us back if we don't really explore those as we start to get older and really look at what we really want in life. So as I always do, I'm going to hand over to Chris to introduce himself. Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's kick off by sharing a little bit about you, how you got into coaching and ideas around niche and what that kind of means to you and ideas that you've got.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Chris. I call myself a career and purpose coach. So what that means is I work with people to help them figure out and articulate their purpose, and then we'd work together with that knowledge to kind of make sense of what that means now in their career and their life. So that could be things like changing their career to kind of bring more of their purpose up on a day-to-day basis. But it could also mean just like bending their current role or finding different ways maybe outside of work to basically feel more true to themselves, and just do things that kind of light them up and get them excited to jump out of bed every day. The reason I kind of do that, I guess, is it's very much something that resonates with me. It's this idea of being able to like articulate and define your purpose or kind of what you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis in order to be feeling your most kind of true self and your most full self is definitely something that I've been exploring over the last few years. And I feel like I've been able to make good progress in regards to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of like exploring purpose, because I think a lot of people as coaches have to go through that journey themselves at the starting point. And it's interesting, actually, this morning I was writing an article about business kind of looking at having a compass.
Yeah.
The ideas around that you've got to have purpose, you've got to have your mission, you've got to have your values, you've got to have your vision, and then your goals. And then, as I said, that kind of, for me, creates this compass of, if you imagine 4 quadrants. And I guess the key part of that at the start is your mission, if you're coming from a business perspective, but essentially it's your why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And they always say, don't know, Simon Sinek, start with why.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was definitely a point in my life where I was like, I've done a lot of different things, and like on paper, I couldn't really make sense of why I enjoyed the things that I enjoyed because there wasn't an obvious connection between them. So for example, I loved like acting as a kid. I loved music, but then I was also like really good at maths.
Yeah.
So I spent this kind of, a lot of my kind of teenage years kind of almost felt like a duality of like creative, but also very kind of traditionally academic.
Yeah.
And I never really kind of understood how that made sense. And then when I looked at kind of the different roles that I'd done at the beginning of my career, it was kind of like, I don't necessarily see how this all kind of fits into one big picture. Like I've done a bit of sales, done some marketing, I've done kind of more stuff in tech. And I think for me, being able to kind of figure out like what actually is the string that connects all of these things. Because I think people often, when they think about purpose, they kind of get it confused with passion. So it might be like, my purpose is to become a dancer or whatever it might be. But actually, that's your passion. Your purpose is kind of that layer below that. It's kind of like, so for me, like one of the things that I realized was that learning and sharing knowledge was crucial to me in order to feel happy, helping people kind of gain wisdom through sharing things that I've learned. And when I look back at all of the different things that I really enjoyed doing, it was all around like, how can I learn as much as I can learn to then be able to share that so that people can think differently about themselves or about something that they'd already had some opinions on. And so for me, that kind of why behind why I was doing everything was very much like this unrealized and unspoken thread that all of these things started to make sense on.
Yeah. It's really interesting you mentioned that. I was reading something, a book recently, and it was talking exactly about passions and purpose. And he was, it's Stephen Bartlett's book, actually, Happy Sex Millionaire. If you haven't read it, it's amazing. And he's quite controversial deliberately, I think, in his way he pitches himself and ideas.
Yeah.
But I think the essence I got through that was that it isn't just about, oh, whoopee, I found my passion. Passions, there are loads of passions. And when I started to think about this, I thought, well, he's right, because like yourself, I've probably career-wise always had a very corporate career, very implementer, do as you're told, comes through the hierarchy, and that kind of, you get formula, process, results driven, all those KPIs. And then you hit a point where I was like, but like yourself, I wasn't that years ago. I did a drama degree, and I've got this internal conflict going on, because I love what I do and I enjoy that part of at that time. But there's something that I'm not getting, that I'm having to seek in a different place.
Yeah.
It's that's almost like an inner purpose part but the passions are drawing it out for me. So I guess understanding that reality myself probably got me a bit into the coaching world of, I love what I do, but this doesn't feel like it's tapping into my purpose in life.
Yeah.
Whereas then coaching came about, and it just did. And it's those passions and things that help you sometimes identify that, I think, on your journey. But also to know that you don't just have to stick with that one passion. That it's just there, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Soul by Pixar?
No.
It's a really interesting, how like Pixar's really started to do movies that start to go into kind of like psychology, like Inside Out was one with the emotional intelligence, and Soul is one which is, it has this concept of before a soul can become a life, they have to have like a spark.
Right.
And so the movie follows like a jazz musician, and you kind of believe that his spark in life is to play jazz music, and he's become a jazz teacher and feels a little bit more kind of disillusioned with the whole kind of thing, although he very much still wants to pursue that passion of becoming a performer. But kind of the crux of the story is that really it's not about a particular spark that you have to have. So like there's a character that's always trying to find whatever their spark is. Could I be a chef? Could I be an architect? Could I be all of these different things? It's not really about that thing. It's just the ability for you to get passionate about something and to be able to kind of commit to something to some level that can like bring out the best in you. It's a really, really good movie that I would recommend to anyone. And it's very, very much aligned to this concept of purpose, like personal development, like why are we on the planet? What is the greater contribution that we should be making to other people's lives? But it just kind of very much reminded me of like, it's not about like that one thing that you start doing when you're 4 years old and spend your entire life dedicated to it. It's just the ability to kind of get excited by different things. And then if you can kind of understand what that thread is between them, that will really help you as you move forward to make decisions about what you do next, whether it's what job you take or what hobby you pick up or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. When I always do kind of 5 quick fires questions at the end, but I'm going to do one now actually, because it's interesting with what we're talking about. When you talk about, like you said, about how you used to be and then kind of what you get into, and I guess it's part of it may be some of our upbringings in terms of what we go into, or we just find something and we enjoy it, or we're, I remember actually, I'm money driven, but not the way I used to be. But actually at the time when I was 21, I was earning really good money. And that just kept me. So asking that question to you, what would you tell your younger self now that you're going through this journey and looking back, and that, like you just said, thinking about your purpose and your passions years ago?
2 things. One, I think I would say just have more patience with things. And I mean, particularly around like your career and your relationships. Like I was definitely someone that was like, I want to go in at this level, and then within an X number of time, I want to be at this next level, and the next number of time, I want to be even higher. And it was all about the pursuit of the next kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think my biggest thing now would be like slow down and just kind of enjoy it. Kind of have patience with yourself. Trust in the process. I don't necessarily like when people say trust in the process, because it kind of assumes that there is like a defined process for you, but it's more like trust in that you're just figuring it out, and you're kind of making the right decisions, and don't kind of overthink like, would this be the right career decision? Like, what is this payoff going to be for this if I do this? I may not enjoy this, but maybe I'll do it because it will get me this kind of salary or this kind of status. Like, forget all of that kind of stuff and just kind of like slow down with it. And the second kind of piece of advice I would give, which is very much related to this, is like focus less on the results and focus more on what you're learning, the relationships you're building, your mental health, and all of these kind of other things that really at that age I would kind of put second to achieving in like a traditional kind of success sense. Because I think it's not unusual that sort of within the first, especially now within the first sort of 10 years of your career, you do really change your definition of success. And I think often when you start working and start going into your career, the definition of success is either inherited, but that could be from what you've seen on TV, that could be what you've seen in a magazine, it could also be your parents or your teachers. Really like spend that time to work out what is success for you, because it doesn't have to be lots of money, really good status, and really good job title.
Yeah, and I think alongside that, and we know through coaching ourselves, that this real essence of awareness, isn't it? And understanding and reflecting. And I love how you mentioned patience, because I'm a big believer in this as well. And I often get that feedback to people. I remember having a coach a few years ago, and he said one of your strongest attributes is that you're just patient with the process on things, as much as the process, but just I guess every day and every step you take in moving forward. And I think you're right around the process part. That becomes bringing in that validation of there's an end destination as such, and you've got to do this at this point, etc. And actually, I think, like you say, when you break things down and just do it step by step, or what feels right for you, and explore different things, that's when some of the magic happens a bit more, I find. And that's, I really said last year was my big year of just slow down to speed up. And sometimes I understand that because there's loads of thoughts coming through my mind as you're sharing things there around your mental health, but then your beliefs are impacting that, your upbringing, as you said, creating expectations for yourself as well, isn't it? And your environment shaping different things, where we're sitting now, etc. All of this is part of that journey, and understanding, and I think in heightening your awareness to where you're at and what's going on to move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's changed the way I look at other people as well. So for example, like if I saw someone being like really successful, who'd like was like really famous, like doing really well, I would look at that and think, God, I want that. But I wouldn't necessarily think, well, what was the path that they had to take in order to get to that?
Yeah.
So instead of being like, oh, I reckon I could do that, it was like, well, do you want to put the thousands of hours and hard work that they put in that you can't actually see? And I think what I started to kind of realize over the last few years is to focus much less on kind of like celebrate success and where they are, and that's all great, but actually think about like, well, what was the path that kind of got, what were the decisions that they made, what were the opportunities, what were the things they said yes to, what were the things they said no to, and try and pick out learnings in that part of, to try and take learnings there that you can apply to yourself now, than just looking at the result. And I think it's one of the reasons that I love reading like biographies of people, like really understanding, like I can see on the cover who the person is, and I can see that I know that they are successful, but what I'm interested in is like, what did that kind of struggle, or what did that path to their greatness actually look like, and where are the learnings and the opportunities there, because they're far more relevant to me today than what they're necessarily doing as they're sat in their mansion somewhere today.
Yeah, 100%. How do you do that with clients? And and if someone's to approach you, what's the starting point for them in terms of maybe some of the same things coming through with some clients? I also know that clients come to me and they'll go, I don't know what my niche is, that type of thing. So what are kind of some of the things that people come to you with at the start?
So the people I tend to work with have been pretty, like I would describe them as high achievers, for want of a better word, but basically they are people that have done well in school, probably got a decent degree, have had a good start to their career, and are just kind of at a point where they're like, is this actually what I want to do? In theory, when I look at a piece of paper, I'm successful across all of the different criteria for success, but I just don't feel that way. And I feel like I either feel that there's a potential within me that's being unfulfilled, or I feel that I am committing my life to something which isn't actually the thing that I'm going to be thinking about when I'm 70 years old looking back at my life, or 90 years old and looking back at my life.
Yeah.
So a lot of the initial work that we'll do is very much around like when have you really lit up with some of the work that you've been doing. That could be like examples that they have in their recent career, but it could also be stuff that they've done when they were younger, or hobbies that they have, trying to kind of understand like what is important to them about, like when they think back to those moments that they were really kind of lit up and loving every second of what they were doing, even if it was hard. What were the things that were happening, and trying to understand why they're important. So that's kind of tapping really into like their values.
Yeah.
What is it that they need in order to feel fulfilled, feel like they're kind of being true to themselves. A big part of what we would do is also kind of work out what is their definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
And also how has that success changed over time?
Mm.
Because I think sometimes it can be more helpful to think about how it's changed.
Mm.
And it's easier to kind of say, oh, when I was 21, I wanted this.
Mm.
And then go, okay, well, is that true for you anymore? What's true about that now and what is not? And to kind of start tapping into that kind of stuff. And then from there, we just kind of break it down and say, okay, well, given that you now have this kind of view of what success means to you right now, and given that you've got an awareness of kind of the things that you need in order to feel most yourself in a working environment, how can we then make sense of these two things within your kind of day-to-day job?
Yeah.
And sometimes for some people that I work with, one of the biggest realizations is that career isn't as important to them as it used to be. And actually, like, as they're coming into their 30s, like relationships and family and all these kind of other things. And I think the pandemic has also kind of accelerated this to some extent. And for some really ambitious people, especially if we're talking about like those high achievers that have done really well, it can feel, it almost feels like they're giving up part of their identity.
Yeah.
Because they were the person that was like, this person, like their family were like, you do so well, you're so successful, you're so clever, you've got such a good job. And then they're sort of actually realizing that isn't as important for them anymore.
Yeah.
And that realization, some of the early sessions can be really kind of emotional for clients, because as they start to kind of realize that actually their truth today is not what their identity has been for the longest period of time.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with that and being able to kind of let go of that and say it worked at that time, but it doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so powerful. I love it. It resonates so much. I remember a couple of years ago, I had a bit of challenge going on with, again, like career and everything. And I had to say to someone once, someone who was managing me at the time, and I just said, what you want for me is not what I want for myself.
Yeah.
You're pushing me in the direction that I don't want to go. And you're making me feel if I don't do that, I haven't achieved my potential, or I've made a failure.
Yeah.
I've done that in your world and your perspective and through your lens, not mine. And that sounds kind of, you've got to be quite a strong character, I think, so that I don't mean that arrogantly, but I just say so many people don't, being that direct and saying, actually, no, this is what I want, or actually, no, I appreciate your feedback. I need to take that and think about what that means to me, because so often I think people hear things, and it's like people who read. I love reading, like yourself, absolutely love it. And one of my goals is to read 52 books this year. So I read one a week. And I think I'm just slightly behind. But I take so much from it. And I have to read this back. But, it's about that you have to do, so you can't just keep absorbing information. You've got to understand what it means. I don't read the book for the sake of reading the book to go tick box, I've done it.
Yeah.
I read it and take things, and I want to learn from it and implement. And I think the same is true of that I don't just want to, you can absorb information, but you've got to do something with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. It resonates a lot. And I think that's what I'm saying. You have to be strong to say, actually, this is what's right for me. And actually, maybe I don't know. And maybe I want to change things. And for me, definitely the term success has changed massively the last, 5 years, probably even, and the last year in terms of what I want. And some people want more of we don't have kids. No. Well, you're not with anyone. No. But I'm happy. Like, I don't think I'm happy. Like, I don't, for success, actually, I love the fact that every day I can get up, go to the gym, and I do what I want when I want.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a life where I'm governed by a routine of the school run and stuff. I'm not judging that. It's not what I want for myself. And it doesn't mean I'm not, living a great life and I'm happy or I'm not successful. I just want something that's different. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that I mean that resonates a lot. I think the this idea of like, so like coaching in the workplace, and like there's definitely like, there are a lot of companies now where they think that you're like the manager reportee line is very like, can be a coaching one. It's not like the old days of micromanaging. It's like, coach this person. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I've kind of realized is that the goal often isn't clarified between the manager and the report. And
Yeah.
so the manager will try and coach someone to potentially be more like them, or
Yeah.
this view of what success is for them. But because, as we know, like if there isn't like a well-formed goal in coaching, there isn't really that much coaching that can take place.
Yeah.
That because that time and that investment isn't actually done in like, okay, where is it that, what is the goal that we can kind of work together on? So like, understand, Natalie, what is it that you want in your this job that you're doing? What is your goal right now? And then for the manager to kind of help figure out how they fit into that. In the absence of that initial conversation, and I see it all the time with clients, people start getting kind of coached into these roles that just aren't really what they've ever kind of wanted or thought about.
Yeah.
But because that kind of goal setting is never made clear, people just kind of go along with it.
Mm.
And so,
Yeah.
as you said, like it takes a very confident person, and I think this is where coaching can be really powerful, because people don't often realize that it's something that they can go and do where they don't actually have the answer yet, and coaching will help them kind of get the answer.
Yeah.
Um, Having like being able to go like have someone who has a great relationship with their manager, but something isn't right clicking in terms of how they're being coached, spend some time with a coach who's objective and kind of outside of that situation, that can really ask you the questions around what is it that you want in your life,
Yeah.
and how can we make sense of it, can give these people so much more confidence and clarity when they go back to their day-to-day jobs and they speak to their manager to say, actually, this is what I need in order to feel happy in my role. This
Yeah.
is what I need in order to feel successful. How can we now work together with this shared understanding in terms of how we progress, so that I can help you with what you need to do, but also you can help me with what I need.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it's phenomenal. It's a great, you put it in such a great way. I've been working with so I've done career coaching as well, and corporate coaching. So I love all of that. I guess I focus more personal and group coaching with building businesses and helping coaches is my niche. But I definitely still do elements within that because I love it, and we like lots of different strings. So we were talking this week actually about how we measure performance more and manage performance, and it was really interesting to see about implementing the looking at goals on a periodic basis opposed to just reviews for your performance every 2 years, job done, or twice a year, that's it. And it really got me thinking yesterday, exploring it all around visually, because I'm a visual learner, what that looks like on that journey, and thinking actually what that shows me is that, exactly like you said, and this has come through this week, I've been listening to I think it's called The Infinite Game. It's a new Simon Sinek book. You probably really love it actually, and it's all around, again, not infinite success versus finite, and just like that there is a destination and tick box, you've ended there. It's not about that. So looking at this way, exactly like you've said, it's actually people aren't really clear in business and career coaching, corporate. It's about the real expectation and the goals. And it's really interesting. Like, we know that coaching, like you just said, it cannot be a coaching session without a goal and a time and everything. So bringing that into their way of working and being as a leader, it will accelerate growth so much more quickly, because they are focused periodically. You're tapping into where they are with those goals, and you're just moving forward. You've just got to have, what I did think about, well, what would be the obstacles and challenges here? And a lot of it is around, again, sometimes the expectation of pace, and actually you have to really lead that and be disciplined to say, we are doing this because this benefits, this hour actually benefits so much more than not doing it.
I think the other thing that have being clear with kind of what it is that you are either wanting to work towards or wanting to achieve, it makes receiving feedback so much more straightforward. Because I see a lot of people who will be in a situation where they'll be getting feedback from all kinds of different people in their job, and they'll just be like, and it'll be conflicting feedback, and they have absolutely no idea what to do with it. And my question to that is, okay, well, what is it that you were trying to achieve here? What is it that you're working towards? And then if you anchor yourself on that, you can look at the feedback more objectively and say, okay, and even the person who gave the feedback, and say, okay, is this person aware of what I'm trying to achieve? and has this person got experience or prior knowledge that would help me in that pursuit? And if the answer to both those questions is no, maybe just thank them for the feedback and then kind of discard it. And then if you can find other people that really get what you're trying to do, and you know that they've got a lot of experience in it, they're the people that you really kind of double down on that feedback. Try and get more from them, because that will help you. So that sometimes if you're feeling like you're getting feedback from every single person and it can just feel completely overwhelming and you just get really stuck, go back to what you were trying to achieve and then look at the feedback and start to filter out the stuff that you just doesn't make sense to you in what you're doing. And I think that's where sometimes with manager conversations where you're going to get feedback and it isn't clear what you're working towards with your manager, because they have one view of what your career is going to be and you have a slightly different view. It can be really difficult because you'll take your manager's feedback. They're a point of authority on you. They're probably responsible for your salary increase or whether you get promoted and all these kind of things. But you might find it really difficult to accept the feedback because you just don't think it's relevant or you don't agree with it. And I think like 9 times out of 10, the reason for that will be that the goal just isn't clear between the two of you.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, growth is an output, isn't it? I think people think of, like, seeing it in that way, and that you know, going on that. I'm just thinking of so many ideas around this, but it is around, I think, like you just said, getting that clarity on the expectation. And I love that point, what are you trying to achieve here? And that we get so defensive in feedback, whereas actually, like you say, when you just approach it in a way of, like when we're coaching, what worked well, what didn't go so well, what are you going to change, continue, and becoming a way of, working, opposed to just thinking, right, this is your feedback and you're getting ready for it and then you're going to get defensive about it. And it's not a healthy way to be. And I don't always like the term growth mindset as such, because I think people use it in a different way nowadays, but it is very much around, don't be so fixed in the ideas that you have, or that how it's been. Just go with something and see if it works, and it doesn't, go again.
There's something in the book by Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk, which is the difference between someone with a high ego and someone with high self-esteem. And I think it really comes down to that, because I actually have it written on my wall, which is what I'm looking at right now. But someone with a high ego will basically fear what people will say.
Yeah.
And it is because anything that they say will potentially be an attack on their ego.
Yeah.
Whereas someone with high self-esteem will be able to filter what people will say.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, and it's this idea of like, if you can kind of focus less on your ego, and more on your self-esteem, and self-esteem really is kind of just being clearer with who you are and what it is that you need, that will make you happy, that isn't driven by ego.
Yeah.
If you can be clear on those things, it makes it much more objective. It makes it much easier for you to objectively look at feedback from other people, criticism that you might get, asking for help, all these kind of different things sort of become easier when you're coming from a position of it. And this has been a big lesson for me. I definitely was someone who was like big on the ego when I started working and learning, and like feeling like I needed to be successful versus the team needing to be successful, and all these kind of different things.
Yeah.
If you can kind of establish the difference between self-esteem and ego, it makes it so much easier for you to be able to just, like, I don't want to say the word survive, but like just kind of get through the day. And kind of remove that shield of defensiveness, especially when it comes to things like feedback, that can just kind of ruminate in your brain for days and days and days and days, and just instead be like, okay, here's a piece of information that someone's given me, it's feedback, is it helpful, is it related to what I'm trying to achieve, yes, no. If it is, great, you've learned something. If it's not, thank you, move on.
Yeah, and one of my big beliefs is that, whether you are doing your own business, whatever, everybody needs to show up as a leader.
Yeah.
And leaders have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's really key as well with this, for sure. What book has had the biggest impact on you?
What book has had the biggest impact on me? Oh, good question. It's so funny because, like, if I look at my bookcase I'm looking at right now, there's like, I look at different books and there's always like a different lesson that comes from each book.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it is definitely difficult. I would say, to be honest, more recently, like say in the last year, the Jay Shetty book has had probably the biggest influence on me.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
yeah, things around like having a gratitude practice,
Yeah.
like trying to like all the stuff to do with like purpose and dharma. A lot of things around like if you like the thing, I guess my biggest takeaways from the book are like if you want to achieve things, and like I still want to, like, achievement is still one of my core values. I still want to like achieve things, but if you want to achieve things, focus on the learning was one of the big learnings there. The other one was if you want to have a fulfilling life, focus on service to others.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And so those two things really, so like, and it's interesting in terms of like I've done kind of like values elicitations with other coaches and things like that, and the values that kind of stand out for me are freedom, fulfillment, and achievement.
Yeah.
And like and freedom, I could understand it was kind of like having the ability to just do a whole bunch of variety of different things, like be creative, all this kind of stuff. With the achievement and the fulfillment, I've kind of rethought them to be okay, like if you want to achieve, you need to learn, and if you want to feel fulfilled, you need to be helping more people.
Yeah.
And though that kind of translation of those two values has very much come as a result of reading the book by Jay Shetty, and so that's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, it's a great summary. So kind of wrapping up then, I've asked one of the questions I said earlier. So kind of the four left is, how do you measure success? We've spoken a lot around that word, but how do you measure it for your world and what you do?
Yeah. For me, success is, am I learning something new every day? And am I not being selfish with that knowledge? I.e., am I sharing it with someone so that they can learn something new, either about themselves or about the world?
Right.
And so if I can go to bed every day and think I've helped someone by sharing knowledge, and that knowledge has been acquired through learning, that's like success for me right now.
Yeah, I have a bit of a routine in the morning and a morning mindset questions that I answer in one of my diaries. And one of them is around, who could you surprise with a gift, a note of appreciation, you know, or a message as such gift. So yeah, I definitely think that's absolutely, I love that perspective straight in the morning as well, thinking, oh, who could that be today?
Yeah.
Really good. What do you think people can do to live a happier life?
Gratitude.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, it's very much related to what you just said. Like one of the first things that me and my girlfriend started doing at the beginning of the pandemic, which was a result of doing it's called the Science of Wellbeing course with the Yale University. It's an amazing course. It's free online. If people are interested, they should look it up. But it was, you should like do a gratitude practice every single day.
Yes.
I always thought I was a pessimistic person. I am a lot more hopeful. I'm a lot more positive. I'm a lot more optimistic. I'm a lot more caring with the people around me, just by, at the end of every single day, just as we're going to bed, we say 5 things that we're grateful for that happened in that day. And I think the reason it's been great in the pandemic is it's been really difficult at times, and it's been hard to find stuff to be grateful for. But that's almost like when you do a really hard workout in the gym.
Yeah.
If everything was going fine, it'd be really easy to pick 5 things. If things are going bad and you can still find 5 things, everything about how you're feeling just immediately changes.
Yeah. Love that. And what can people do to live a more purposeful life?
What can they do to lead a more purposeful life? I understand their purpose. I think, I think, and what can they do to understand their purpose? Look back at all of the things that you've done in your life that you've absolutely loved, that you've felt the most yourself and the most true, most honest, most authentic, all of these different words, and then start to find the threads between them.
Brilliant.
Who are you talking to? What were the relationships like? What were you doing? What were you learning? All this kind of stuff. You can start to be able to identify what those things are, and you can articulate your purpose. Everything else will start to make sense, and you can more confidently say yes and say no to things as they come your way.
And finally, what does Chris want to be known for?
What does Chris want to be known for? I would like to be known for someone who was like, could make people think differently about things, help people become happier, help people become more freer versions of themselves, and did so in a really simple and easy to digest and easy to access way. And so it comes right back to, how can I learn some stuff, and then how can I share that in a really easy and digestible way for people, so that even if they see one post from me and it's only 30 seconds of their day. It's just something that they've seen that maybe has made them start to have a bit of an aha moment in their head.
Yeah, really impactful. Definitely the same when it comes to mental health, isn't it? Sometimes that moment can really help.
Yeah.
Amazing. Look, thank you so much for your time. I actually love your perspective on everything, and it's really added value. So thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Yes, thank you for that. Natalie, thank you for the kind words. Where can people find me? You can find me on Instagram, Chris Hannay, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And then there's a bunch of links going from there. I have a newsletter that goes out each week where I try and share just like small kind of things, like a 2-minute read that will just make you think a little bit differently about yourself.
Yeah, I have similar of a newsletter. It's called 5 Minute Friday. So similar as well.
Yeah. It's just like no one wants to read a long essay from me. No. It's just going to be that small kind of thing that you'll just take into your week or your weekend and just think, oh, actually that I'm thinking slightly different about something that I hadn't really thought about before.
Add value. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to my podcast today. I really hope you've taken some value. If you would like to focus on achieving your purpose-driven goals, then reach out and share with me one thing that's going great for you right now and one thing that you're really struggling with. Let's see if or how I can help you to leverage your business to make more money, make an impact, and have more freedom. As always, go take action and make an impact, and have a great day.